If you have an AWS certification, but you still can't get a cloud engineer interview, I want to show you very clearly why this is the case, because once you see this visually, it's going to make so much more sense. So you did everything right? Maybe you got the cloud practitioner certification, maybe the solutions architect associate, maybe even another certification. You studied, you put in the work, you passed, you put it on LinkedIn, you updated your CV, and then you started applying for jobs. And to your surprise, nothing happened. You didn't get any callbacks, you got no recruiter messages, you got 0 interviews, basically just crickets. So naturally, what your brain does is it thinks about what you did in that process. So your brain thinks that, well, it would have probably just been the cert, right? Maybe it's the cert. Maybe I need to get another certification. And this is really where a lot of people go wrong. So the default conclusion becomes that you think that the cloud practitioner certification or whichever certification that you got first wasn't enough. So what do? Well, you go and do another cert. You go do the Solutions Architect Associate. Then if that doesn't work, you think, oh, maybe I need the SysOps. And if that doesn't work, then you think DevOps, Kubernetes, Terraform, then Security Plus, right? And before you know it, you've just spent 12 months of studying before you even enter the job market. But here's the problem. That certification, thinking that the certification was the problem, isn't actually the right diagnosis. Most of the time, it's not a certification problem that you have because you've got a cert, maybe you got 2, and nothing is still happening. So you have to think about what's the actual problem, because for the majority of people, it's no longer the cert, it's actually a proof problem. So let's talk about what that even means, right? Now, the real issue is not that AWS certifications are useless. They are not useless. The real issue is that you expected the certification to do way more than it can do for you. An AWS certification will prove that you can study for certifications and pass an exam. That is still valuable, but a company in 2026 is not hiring you because you can pass a certification exam. They are hiring you because they have to believe that you can solve their cloud problems. And that's completely different. A cert creates knowledge proof, what I call, but interviews require trust. So there are 4 proofs that employers need. The first proof is knowledge proof. So this is obviously your AWS certification. It tells the market that, okay, this person understands some AWS concepts. They know about EC2, they know about S3, they know about identity, VPC basics, right? Cool, right? That's great. But there's a problem with that. And the problem with that is that a lot of other people have the same thing. So if your only proof is the same proof as everyone else, then you don't stand out. You just look like any other person with a certification, right? So the second proof that you need is build proof. This is where the employers will ask, can this person actually build something useful? Not follow a tutorial, not copy someone else's GitHub repo, right? Can they actually connect services together? Can they deploy something? Can they troubleshoot when things break? Can they configure networking? Can they work with IAM properly? Can they communicate? Can they solve problems? Can they monitor something? Because that is actually the job. Cloud engineering in the real world is not answering multiple choice questions, right? The job is actually messy. Permissions break, deployments fail, networking doesn't work, logs are very unclear, cost goes up. So you, as the engineer, have to be able to figure out what is happening and why it's happening. So if your CV has a certification, but no strong build proof, then employers will still not trust you enough. So you need that. Proof number 3 is judgment proof, right? And this is the big one. This is actually where a lot of people will fall apart because they know what the services are called, right? But it can't explain why the services are used and what problems do they solve. Why EC2 instead of Lambda? Why RDS instead of DynamoDB? Why private subnets? Why that specific IAM setup? Why Terraform? Why this architecture? What trade-offs did you make? What would you change if this was in production? A tutorial will teach you the how, but employers will test you on the why. And if your answer is just, hey, I just followed this tutorial because the tutorial did it this way, then you're basically done, right? And proof number 4 is market proof. This is basically how you package all your skills together. Your CV, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your projects write-up, your positioning, how you talk about yourself, right? And this is where a lot of people lose before they even get the chance because their CV will just list the skills, right? The technologies like AWS, Terraform, Docker, Linux, Python, CI/CD. Right, great. Everyone else's does that, right? That's not positioning. It's basically just a shopping list, right? Your CV, it's not supposed to be a list of tools. Your CV is supposed to make someone believe that this person can solve problems. And that's the game that you have to play. So this is the gap, right? This whole part is what you need. This is the gap. You already have the knowledge proof, but interviews need all 4 of these. Right? You need your knowledge proof, you need your build proof, you need your judgment proof, and you need your market proof. That's why the certification alone isn't converting. Not because the certification is worthless, but on its own, it's just incomplete. Where is the trust kind of leaking, right? The first one is your CV. You sound like a student. The second one is your projects, i.e. you have tutorials, not a portfolio. And number 3, and the third trust that's leaking is your positioning, right? You've got a little bit of everything. So you want to find the leak and then you want to fix the leak. So let's break down the first one. Leak number 1. First leak is your CV. Now, most beginners' CV will say something like knowledge of AWS, familiar with EC2, familiar with S3, IAM, VPC, AWS certified, right? That doesn't create any sort of belief to anyone reading your CV. It sounds like a student. Instead of saying knowledge of AWS networking, you need to say something like designed and deployed a secure AWS VPC with public and private subnets, route tables, NAT gateways, security groups, and IAM roles. Right, just as an example, look at the difference between this kind of positioning on your CV. Very, very different. Because now we can actually see what you did. Here is the proof. So don't list what you know, show what you built. The second leak is the project problem, right? A tutorial project is absolutely fine for learning, and there's no issues with that. A tutorial project will teach you, right? It teaches you to do something. But a portfolio project sells you, right? It sells your skills and expertise. And both have complete different purposes. Your projects need to show what problem that you solved, why you chose that architecture, what broke and how you fixed it, the trade-offs and the decisions that you made, and also what you would change in production. That's what makes it real. You don't need to have 15 different projects that are all incomplete. You just need 2 to 3 projects that actually show thinking and show that you're solving a real problem. And the best way to do this, that I've always done, all my students inside of my Cloud Engineer Academy do, they first get all the real projects that we have when we're working with clients directly in my consulting company. So they use those to actually solve some problems. But I also recommend going on places like Upwork and look at the freelance websites and look at the projects on there that companies are listing for DevOps and cloud expertise that they need. So what you're doing there is you're going and you're looking on these websites, seeing what projects people need help with, who are real companies with real problems, and then you just go and solve those projects yourself based on the briefs that they share, right? And the third leak is your positioning. A lot of people are just very confusing, right? When I'm interviewing for roles, they just don't make any sense. Their CVs say something like a bit of AWS, I do a bit of Python, a bit of cybersecurity, a bit of Linux, a bit of DevOps, basically a bit of everything. And the recruiters will then sit there and think, what is this person actually trying to be, right? What's their value proposition? So you need to be very easy to understand. For example, an IT support professional transitioning into cloud engineering with hands-on AWS infrastructure projects across networking, IAM, automation, and monitoring. That's very, very clear about what you do and who you are, right? And the market knows where to place you. Because the truth is that confused people don't get hired. Now, there is a big shift that you have to make, and that's exam mode versus job mode. The shift that you have to make here is that you need to move away from that exam mindset to job mindset. An exam mode or exam mindset will ask, what do I need to pass? A job mode will ask, what do I need to prove to get hired? These are 2 completely different questions. And a lot of people stay in exam mode because it feels safe, right? Studying feels safe, courses are safe, practice exams are safe, another certification is safe. Because the truth is, people are scared of getting rejected. And being in study mode and exam mode, you don't get rejected. But also, you don't get hired by staying there forever. At some point, you have to turn that knowledge into proof. Now, does that mean you should never get another certification? No, but don't hide behind another certification. If another cert fits into your actual plan, then that's totally fine. But if you're getting another certification because you're scared to apply, or because your first cert didn't get you interviews and you're hoping that the next one magically will, then you're really just avoiding the real issue. Because if your CV is weak, another certification won't fix that. If your projects are generic, another certification won't fix that. If your positioning is unclear, another certification won't fix it, right? It just gives you another line on a CV listing a cert that still doesn't convert into interviews, right? That's what I call productive procrastination. It feels like progress, but it's not solving the bottleneck, which is getting callbacks and getting into the interview process. So if you have an AWS certification but no cloud engineer interviews, here is the takeaway. Your certification is not useless. It's just incomplete, right? Now what you need to do is you need to build proof. You already have the knowledge proof, you need the judgment proof, you need the market proof, and you need the build proof. But then another question you have to ask is, which part is broken of your application and your skill sets? Is it your CV? Is it your projects? Is it your positioning? Is it your LinkedIn? Is it the roles that you're applying for? Is it the way that you explain what you've done? Is it your fundamentals? Because if you don't know what's broken, then you can't fix it.
Real quick, if you know that you've been jumping between certifications, tutorials, and career paths without actually committing to anything, I want to give you something completely for free. My team and I have built a school community where we've put together training videos and resources that will help you get the clarity that you're looking for when it comes to cloud engineering. It's completely free, link in the description below, and once you're in there, you will also see a full in-depth breakdown of my Cloud Engineer Academy and how the program is structured. And if you watch the breakdown and you are like, yes, this is for me, then you can just book a call with my team directly.